And here we are. I'm going to share my screen.
Go for it.
Oh yeah, I'm just a little slow, you know. Got to include the sound. Huh. There we go. That's interesting. Oh, there we go. Okay, thanks for joining us today as I've made up a presentation on taking the mystery out of selected catalytic reduction. The exhaust aftertreatment system of our EC490 is what we recommend and what this class will be somewhat revolved around. And I'll have more with that a little bit later. We're finding that many technicians don't know how the exhaust aftertreatment works. They don't know that the goal of this is to end up with the part of the equation that's in blue, which simplified is nitrogen, water, and CO2. So we're going to take atmospheric air in, and we're going to run it through the system. I'm going to do a brief overview of the system. Many of you have downloaded the document from Ford. I'm going to present that and draw through that visual on page 8. And we're going to build this course from there. This class is designed with your students in mind. When we built the EC490, we wanted it to be overwhelmingly visual. So now we're in a state where you know, the visual might be on the screen. So, but back when we built that, I had our engineering department make up some really cool graphics, and I'm going to show you and show you how to use those graphics if you have our trainer. If you don't have our trainer, it's fine. We're going to go through what the gases are doing, and more specifically, tomorrow we're going to move into the importance of the DEF, the diesel exhaust fluid. And I've got some questions for you along the way. Also, we colorized the gases in the trainer that we built so that we can differentiate between what gases are coming in and what gases are coming out. This is not a high-level chemistry class, but it is a class designed for the technician, hopefully, to be able to go out and troubleshoot a vehicle knowing the basics of the system after we get done with the class. There's all sorts of links. I've got more information, and I'll push that out as we go. Okay, I'm going to move to slide 2. I'm sure you are. There we go. So I did a video, and we tested it this morning, and the sound was a little off, so I redid it. I'm going to play this off on the left side of the screen here in a second. But this is my process of developing a course or 3 sessions within a course that I have to do. So I'm just going to see if that video plays. And of course, it's not going to. Let's try it. Yeah, okay, we're going to go beyond the video. Oh, there we go.
To give you an overview of my process of storyboarding, I've used sticky notes for many years, and we now use them quite a lot in our planning at Consulab to be able to move these around. So actually beyond Monday, you know, starting the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking about this class, and then on Monday we rolled some of this stuff. Tuesday, today, these are the sticky notes that I have up here. So as you can see, there's a lot of planning that goes into not necessarily just my slides, but the whole planning portion.
Excuse me, Jeff, you're getting some comments that your volume is extremely low.
You might notice
Yeah,
the
you may have to turn your volume.
numbers at the bottom.
This will be over in a second.
especially as we get into Wednesday. Wednesday here. That 133 on the depth pressure sensor. You know, that might be a page number in that Ford document that I put out as homework. You never can tell. So I'm not saying that we're going to be able to cover all of these topics on Wednesday, but these are the ones that are top on the list. We also maintain a to-don't list, you know, things that we're not going to do. And then up to Thursday, which is so far pretty sparse. But Thursday depends on Wednesday's feedback. Wednesday depends on Tuesday's feedback in the assessments that I'm asking you to do. So the assessment, Tim will push out, and those will be anonymous. So feel free to answer those questions honestly, and then I will share those answers, as I always have within my classes, to see what it is the student learned and what it is that maybe we missed a target on. Thank you.
So I appreciate your comments. The volume's low. If anybody, you guys know me, or a lot of you that know me, I'll hang it out there and try stuff, and we've got to work on the volume of this. This didn't work very well on this session. But to follow up with that, I'm going to go through the system architecture so that the student has an idea of what the system consists of and the architecture of that system. So it's important that we see what the system is made up with before we can troubleshoot it. So at this point, I'm going to move to a black slide, and then I'm going to put another slide up. Oh, first, though, I want to talk about our atmosphere. So our atmosphere is made up of 78% nitrogen and 20% oxygen. And this graphic shows the breakdown of those components within our atmosphere. So what happens in the combustion process is we need to take care of that nitrogen somehow, because it gets turned into NOx, or oxides of nitrogen, that we need to clean up. So this is what the selective catalytic reduction portion of the unit does, is cleans up the nitrogen. So at this black slide, I am going to roll out a different screen, and I'm going to start here. So I'm using my iPad, and I'm going to be inking over the iPad for some highlighting. So we're going to start with the air in, and go through the system. I'm going to expand now and ink again to where we come in the turbocharger, we go out of the turbocharger, we go to the intercooler, we come through some components here. Let me pause for a minute. I don't have a mouse to point with at this time, but I can draw some circles. So as the air comes in, it's measured air, mass airflow sensor. And we also measure that temperature. So it's a plumbing system. If the plumbing system has a leak, we need to fix the leak. And that's an old Dave Saylor line, what he used in teaching diesel injection systems. So keep in mind that this is a plumbing system. And if we have a closed system, and if we have an air leak within the system somewhere, we need to take care of that. This will become obvious in a little bit here. So as we move through the system, we've come through the turbocharger. I'm going to ink here in a different color. Let's go to yellow. So you know, that turbocharged air comes up and enters into our cylinders. And then with a combustion process, we end up with, you know, hot exhaust gases coming out. And the first place I'll stop is the diesel oxidation catalyst. I'm going to move my screen. Let's take a look at the rest of the system as we go through. So diesel oxidation catalyst comes up, and we've got some sensors here we're going to talk about. We'll go all the way up and head out through the system. So these are the things that are going to be key in our discussion and assessment over the next couple of days, and also these elements here, so that we know where the temperature sensors are, we know where the pressure sensors are, and we can go in and look at each one of those. Especially all these sensors between the components. So we're not going to talk much about the dock sensor, but I'm going to show it up coming up next with diesel oxidation catalyst. We've been talking about catalysts for what, since 1972 with catalytic converters on cars. I mean, this would have been covered in a previous lesson. So we're just going to concentrate on the selective catalytic reduction. And then we'll take a quick look at the diesel particulate filter and the sensors along the way. Switch screens here. If you need these links, they are there. Let me move this out of the way. The links are there, or you can do the search of the document number. And as I was telling Phil earlier on, if you change this 7 to a 6 and do a search, you'll get 2016 model year. If you change it to an 8, you'll get 2018 model year. Pretty comprehensive document to use as a base to study from. Now I'd like to talk about our 490, EC 490 trainer a little bit. We've taken the selected or the complete exhaust after treatment system, and we had to break it in half because it's a long piece, and you know, it's kind of hard to put on a trainer that comes through a typical classroom door. This is part of what we really like about our trainers, is you can roll them in and out of the classroom for the most part, and you can put that wherever you need in the classroom. So just for your view, the exhaust comes from the turbocharger here into the diesel oxidation catalyst, moves through here where the hydrocarbons have been removed, right? And you know, some other things have happened. And then we move to the beginnings of the selective catalytic reduction unit, where this is our injector. We have, looks like we got a temperature sensor up there. We've got some other sensors. This is kind of a flooded injector. You can't view this as a very precise diesel injector on a diesel engine. This is just kind of like a garden hose spraying in the diesel exhaust fluid. So it hits the grill here. They want to evaporate the water out of it as much as possible, as near as I can tell. And then it swirls in the, I call it the swirl chamber. And then where we've cut the trainer is we make the transition here, and now we're going right to left. So you'll see this in some of the next documents. So this is the selective catalytic reduction unit. It's a pass-through. And this is the diesel particulate filter, which is you could view as typically as a filter. There's a little bit closer view of that. Again, number one starts at the outlet of the turbocharger, diesel oxidation catalyst, decomposition tube. I couldn't think of the name before. The decomposition tube where the swirl chamber is, comes through and out. System architecture of our unit. So I'm going to give you a moment here. Here's your wayfinding. This is the turbocharger. So where my pointer is where the exhaust enters the system. Each time you see one of these boxes, that's a text box, and I'll show you in a second what that is. So we come through to the, again, the dock, the diesel oxidation catalyst, the DEF fluid injector, decomposition tube, swirl chamber. And then we come into the selective catalytic reduction unit here, and the diesel particulate filter here, and of course the resonator at the end. So this is the student version, and next is the instructor version, so that you can get the correct answers, right? You may want to present this, you know, I'll leave it to you guys how you want to present this in your class. Okay, so sometimes I'll do this with the students so we can get some wayfinding, we can get some location. Wow, that's bright white, isn't it? So here we, part of the graphics that we created at Consulab, and we got a great engineering team there that put together the documentation of the system and made the drawings for us, so they're ours. You can see that they're copyrighted. You know, if you have an access to our website, these are included in the website offering. If you have a login to the website, you can be able to find these materials under the EC490 unit. But they, you know, they are copyright. If you have one, you have the rights to use it. But please respect our copyright. So let's concentrate on the constituent gases coming in. We put a key down here of all the gases, and here's what we have coming in from the engine, and there's that pesky NOx over here. And then also this one's pesky. Well, you know, carbon monoxide is a little pesky as well, right? And we want to get rid of the hydrocarbons for the most part. So, and you know, later we're going to get rid of the particulate matter. That's another class. But where we're at here is to get rid of the NOx. So as it travels, as the exhaust travels through the diesel oxidation catalyst, moves through, here's the gases we end up with here. Now, in the interest of not giving all the answers away for your students that might search this video on YouTube after it's posted, I'm not going to give all the answers away. I'm going to ask you to participate in an assessment or a question and answer form that Tim's going to send out here in a little bit. But the next slide doesn't have the gases identified. But
Jeff,
we know.
there's a question in chat that might be relevant.
Okay.
Would you like me to read it?
Go ahead.
Phil said he found a document stating a lawsuit against Bosch and GM, saying that putting the DPF downstream of the SCR was some kind of defeat device. Any insight on that?
No. I'll just leave it at that, Phil. I haven't heard of that. But, you know, there's plenty of stuff to research. So let me go back here to the dock, and we see we have CO2, NOx, H2O, and PM. There's 4 items coming out. Well, we know that those 4 items are coming into the decomposition tube. and the DEF fluid injector. And coming out of that, heading into the selective catalytic reduction unit. Now I put this slide in here as a reminder that we're changing directions, okay? The arrows here are from left to right, and here from right to left. So this is the SCR unit. So coming into the SCR are these things that have gone through the decomposition tube and are moving downstream. And once they're activated upon in the selective catalytic reduction unit, where we're reducing the NOx to something else, we end up with 4, I call them constituent properties, because they're not all gases, right? We have this pesky particulate matter that we still have to deal with. So when you view this, you've got to be sure to remember to change directions. So you're going from right to left now. So here is what's coming out of the selective catalytic reduction unit. And we see that we have these gases to deal with. Okay, so these gases we're good with. Well, you know, you could make this case that they want to get rid of the greenhouse gases, so CO2, but we've got water, nitrogen, and particulate matter that are going to go through the diesel particulate filter. Now I want to pause here for a second and talk about these sensors, because now we're looking at exhaust gas temperature, which is important. So this one shows we have 4. There's the 4th one, the exhaust gas temperature sensor. But at the end, then there's the NOx sensor. The NOx sensor is going to correlate that we've actually removed the NOx. And that's what it's there for. And if you really want an interesting read, go in and look at that NOx sensor in the Ford document. And, you know, if one of you could come up with a 15-minute explanation about how that all works, I would be really interested to see it, because I'm not sure I've got that all figured out. But does the student really need to know how the NOx sensor works? Or does the student really need to know that the NOx sensor communicates on the CAN bus and is part of the system, and that he has to pay attention to it? I think that, you know, in the beginning, I designed this class, and it's always been in the forefront of my mind that the student can take this and go out and use it to make a buck on the floor the next day. So we don't necessarily need to get into all the chemistry, but we do need to understand that this is a closed system and that it has a purpose. And that purpose is the last output down here is to end up with NOx, water, and CO2. So here I bugged this slide with where I've got it. This is a screen capture out of Wikipedia. So, you know, you may need to check the math, but I looked at the references that they used within there, and it all seemed plausible to me. I like using things when I can from Wikipedia, because it's Creative Commons licenses. I don't have to worry about copyright. You know, I'd love to show the Maintenance Council, the TMC recommended practices for diesel exhaust system after treatments, which is RP 373. And if you have that document, like I do, it's really quite comprehensive, but I wouldn't put it up because it's copyrighted. So there we have this portion where I wanted to just go over the system itself so that you could find your way within it. Tim, if you push out the assessment now, I want to talk about that for a minute. The assessment that I've used in the past with my students, I've always made them no named assessments. Don't put your name on it. But then I have very targeted questions. One of them is, what's the muddiest concept? What didn't you get? And what do you really hope that would happen the next time the next class session? And then I anonymize those and I put them up in a document and we go over them the next class session. Mainly so the students can see that they may not be the only person in the room that doesn't understand what's going on, and they haven't raised their hand because they don't want to appear dumb. And one of the things I learned early on at an early CARS conference, I raised my hand because I could see the instructor wasn't reading the room. He didn't know that everybody was lost. I raised my hand, asked the question, even though I knew the answer, I asked the question because I could see others weren't getting it. And I know that I appreciate that if somebody does it for me. And you can go back and recenter, because we really want the student, we really want to understand the student's learning in this. What did they get and what didn't they get? So I am going to unshare my screen. If I can figure out how to do that now. Alt tab.
So Jeff, I pushed that form out twice by accident. I kind of prematurely jumped the gun. And then Carl's got a question whenever you're ready.
Yeah, hang on a second here. I got it.
Yeah, I don't want to derail you.
No, you can derail me now. I've unshared my screen. So Carl, you've got a question.
Yeah, Carl, you can ask it or I can read it. You said basically during correct SCR, do we expect to see a temperature increase across the SCR CAT?
Well, that's a great question. I think we need to explore that as we come across.
Marshall kind of responded saying, I remember seeing temp as being about the same or slightly lower than it is. If there's a chance of a crack or a hole. Mm-hmm. And then Rick, our resident go-to guy, temperature should increase across the SCR, and then he posted a little table there. And then Martin made a sarcastic remark about, looks like someone did not do their homework. So
thank you, Mr. Dubik.
Yeah, we'll get it.
One thing you might do, I see there's a couple hands up. Let me just make this comment. There's some videos. I put up a link, and I'll put it in the chat too. It's at jcurtis.org/Consulab. I've put together a bunch of links. Some years ago, Dan Beeson and I took a video of the Consulab trainer, the 6.7 liter Power Stroke Ford, in a regeneration for a diesel particulate filter. And we took that video with the FLIR thermographic camera. So there's two of those videos that show one, us taking the video, and two, the actual screen of the camera. And it's kind of fascinating to watch the heat flow through that exhaust system. So, I would answer the question of temperature changes by probably looking at the thermographic camera. Other questions?
Jimmy, was your hand up for that reason?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure. Kevin Looney had the question.
He said DEF is not a hydrocarbon and does not combust.
Correct.
I believe Kevin.
No, I've been in Kevin's class, and this is probably hopefully a portion of everybody's class. Kevin does a great class. We even rolled that trainer in, I think, one time, didn't we, Kevin?
Nope. Phil
yeah.
wants to know, why then does the temperature go up?
Yeah, that's a question I'm not prepared to answer right now.
Well, according to the chart, I mean, that Rick put up, it's 200 degrees inlet, 180 degrees out. I don't know that it does.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, is that centigrade?
Yep.
Celsius?
Yeah, the numbers are in the handout on page 19.
Ah, there you go. Somebody read the handout.
Ah.
See, I don't often do well trying to be the smartest person in the room, and it's easier to fess up. Yeah, it's easier to fess up. So one further comment I want to stress again, I would really appreciate feedback in those portions of the form where I've asked the question, because that will drive tomorrow's class. So
Yeah, definitely.
and then the feedback that we received from tomorrow's class will drive Thursday's class. So what I'm trying to show here is a system of call and response, if you will. You know, ask for the questions, get the questions, distill the questions, and then you see where your students are in their learning. And another thing that I watched one of Marshall's, Marshall Links, if he's still on here, I watched one of his videos late last night, and it was a disc brake, hydraulic disc brake, twin piston. And he was going through changing the pads. And, you know, when he got ready to put the caliper back on, he had a heck of a time because one of the slides slid out. Well, we've all done that. We've all run into impediments to our progress. And we all know that we have to have the patience to go back in and look and, oh yeah, you have to move this all out. But we need to demonstrate that to our students. The metacognitive of learning, telling them what we're thinking about, because we all have that little guy on our shoulder chipping at us, right? You know, either, oh, you're a smart guy, or more often for me, it's, you're an idiot. You know, go back and do some more learning. Thank you, Martin. I'll do my homework. So, you know, having fun with the thinking about thinking. We have to think about thinking. How are we repetitively learning these things?
I am going to stop the recording, but we don't have to stop the discussions.